Well, good morning to the United States. Good afternoon, actually, to the West Coast. Good afternoon to the East Coast. And I think, yep, we're starting to get into Buonasera in Italy. Welcome, Bill. This is kind of a ninja drive-by. Spiritual Slut presents A Pause for the Sacred, and Grown-Ass Adulting is a Practice. Hello, Julie and Josh and Rachel and Deva. And we're just taking a pause here for the sacred. One of the things that I've often asked myself is, how do I bring the sacred into all of life? How do that? And feel free to ask questions or make comments. I love them. Welcome, Ray. So how do you bring the sacred into all of life? Or what parts of life have you started to create practices to bring in the sacred? And for me, one of the things, I have practices that I do in the morning. And then sometimes throughout the day, but over here, welcome, Michelle. Yes, Mitchell, we're afternoon over there. A pause for the sacred where you are. Where are you? And what I like to do is wake up in the morning, take some breaths, really go almost into a soft brain focus, and really allow, could there be some insights, some awarenesses, they call it blink, that quantum leap of answers that sometimes come in the morning. For those who are spiritual, we might say it's the voice of the divine or our higher self. For some of us who are more mechanistic in our thinking, we might just think of it as all of our synapses functioning in the night, and then the answer is there in the morning. But whichever way we think of this, it's often additive to practices that calm us down, that reduce the cortisol, that Mark Allen talks about in The Millionaire Mind, how he would go and take a nap and then have an entire report written in his mind by the time he woke up, that he discovered that it was often nonlinear, that to get to the answer or to get to the vision or the creative process, pushing harder wouldn't get there. And what if that's true in all of life? What if there is, the Tao Te Ching talks about this, that pushing harder doesn't get us where we want to go? That this pause, and thank you for joining me, and welcome Leslie and Zoe, that this pause, the pause for the sacred, the pause for the breath, is part of what allows us to be successful in life, relationship, whatever. So just becoming aware of if there's anything in your life that would benefit by a little bit more magic, a little bit more sacred, a little bit more intuitive leap or flow, or empowering surprise from the universe. Some part of your life that may be pushing harder and harder to try to get there isn't working or hasn't been working for you the way that you would most want. So tune into that with me, and let's take a few breaths. A nice breath in the nose, out the mouth, in, down the body into the earth. In the nose, and down the body into the earth. We'll do 3, one more. In the nose, and down the body into the earth. Giving our sense, we're being radical, revolutionaries, evolutionaries here, giving our sense, self a pause rather than a push. Welcome, Krishna welcomes Suzanne. And tuning into that part of our lives that would benefit by more spirit. Welcome, Donna. I'm going to, one of my tools, it's not the only one, breath is one of them. Taking a moment to slow down. Notice the breath, notice my shoulders, feel my feet. I love this, what I'm about to tell you. I really love this when I discovered this. So I'm a trained shaman. I'm trained in various magical traditions. I'm trained in theater. I'm trained in psychology. You know, if you get old enough and you keep studying, you get trained in a lot of things. Every year I try to learn something new or relearn something new. Every year I try to heal something or re-heal something in me. Welcome, Abby. And I would often hear the term get centered, come to centered. and get grounded, come to ground. And I understood them as a word. Ground and center are words, but I didn't understand what they meant. And so my fastest way to get grounded, I'm going to share it with you right now. Can you feel your feet? Can I feel my feet? Let's take a breath with that. Can I breathe all the way down to my feet? And we're grounded. Because the moment that I ask myself, can I feel my feet, and bring my attention to my feet, I have brought myself to ground. Now, what about center? Center was a little bit more challenging for me. Center of what? Center of the universe, center of my mind. Oh no, that's dangerous. What is center? And once again, I discovered these in the inquiry. And there's a saying, our life is formed by the questions we ask. Our life is formed. The actual path of our lives is dictated by the questions we ask. So if I ask, how can I make more money from enough people, I might find some good advice on how to do that. But that's a very different question than if I say, how can I make money in a way that empowers my soul and makes a difference in the world? I'm going to get very different answers. So if I start to ask myself, how can I discover, come to center, eventually I'm going to discover this. And some of my favorite fantasy novels and mythos are all about the quest, the great quest. And that is our life. Our life is the great quest. And what are we questing for? I don't know. What are you questing for? And that's a question. Hi, welcome, Sheza, that I'd love to have some of you answer. Are you questing for the meaning of life, the meaning of love? Are you questing to become a healthy, mature, grown-ass adult, as I like to say currently? Are you questing to discover healthy relating? Are you questing to be financially successful? What are you questing for? And when we're questing, we're asking, we're going to the sacred stranger. We're looking for the unnoticed ones. We are seeing where the surprising help arrives. And we are in a journey, a sacred journey for the holy grail of our life. What is yours? And questions are a big part of that. So when I asked, how do I come to center? I kinesthetically got, well, what if center really is in the center of my body? How would that feel? How would I get there? And I imagined that my body was like a tower. In my mind, I see like the rook in chess, the rook with the little crenellated top of the tower. And I'm also familiar with the chakra system. The most common, although some systems have more than 7, the most common is 7. The 7th, the crown, I imagine that was the crown of this crenellated tower, and that I was up in the universe. I could be open. I could even have a telescope up there, but I was in the center of that tower, and that I could come down a level of my tower, and this was the level of the mind, of insight, of wisdom, and I asked myself, like, how would I decorate that level of the tower? And what would it be like to really live in that level of my tower, but in the center? And I could have doors or windows that opened or closed in various directions. So I could see you in your tower. I could wave. I could, send messages, maybe even smell what you were cooking. And I was centered in mine. And I did that for every chakra, every level of my tower. So when I'm teaching, when I'm coaching, when I'm in a more challenging conversation, those sensitive and challenging conversations, in particular, I really envision coming back to the center of my tower, checking in on my levels. Do I want the doors or windows opened or closed, partially opened or closed? And can I feel my feet? And there I am, centered and grounded. Worked for me. If that doesn't work for you, keep questing. Keep questing. How do I get centered and grounded? I wanted something pretty fast. Sometimes I like it fast. So I wanted something very fast. Can I feel my feet is very fast. And for me, I've come to a point with my tower where it's also very fast to just pull. I envision that I'm, with the in-breath, that I'm pulling my energy and focus back toward my spine, but from the inside. So, and then I'm in the center of me. And now I can choose how much to open or close. And that was pretty fast for me too. Welcome, Kira. And so those are a couple. If you're wanting to get some suggestions on how to have a pause for the sacred in your life, and you're just coming in now, you might want to start over when this completes. And I've been asking questions like, what are you questing for in your life? Where do you want the sacred in your life? And or where are you already practicing the sacred in your life? And maybe what are those practices? So another practice that I do that is very fast. So like I said, sometimes I like it fast, or my life can be fast. And so I need the support of the pauses, the breath in, the feeling the feet, and some of these other ones to balance how fast my life can be, how fast my mind can race. Some of you know that I'm in my own version of The Bachelor right now, where I'm opening to love with somebody who simultaneously began to date someone else. He was getting to know both of us vis-a-vis phone and Facebook messaging while I was in Europe. He came to stay with me for 2 weeks, and now he's spending 10 days with Loretta. And this, I'm an ambivalent attachment person, meaning I can be afraid of entrapment and feel like I need to reactively pull back. But I can also be afraid of abandonment and feel like I need to reactively cling. And so this is a really beautiful practice right now, choosing this and practicing self-soothing, which can also be connected to the sacred. Woo! Sacred self-soothing. One of the things that I do is pull a card. And so I take a moment, let's breathe together. What is the card for our Facebook Live today that somehow will relate to all of us in some magical way? Because we're all connected in the quantum field, entanglement theory, morphogenic field, limbic systems, we're all connected. And the work that one person does on their life, on their soul, on their centeredness, on their peace affects all of us. That's how Jesus works, Mary Magdalene works, Buddha works, every saint works, is that as one individual works on themselves and comes into peace, let alone if many do, it actually touches the whole field. So I'm going back and forth across a fan of cards. Welcome, Sonia. Welcome, Penny. And I am going to pick this one. What is this one? Oh, this is going to relate to some of us. Exhaustion. Exhaustion. And this person, there's a lot of metallic, robotic, the person in the center, he looks pretty tired. He or she, or whatever gender they are, look pretty tired. And, let me know, those of you who are watching, if you feel that exhaustion, mental exhaustion, emotional exhaustion, adrenal exhaustion, if exhaustion relates to you in some way, please let me know. And when we look at exhaustion and we look at this card, this is a person that has the red in the Osho Zen Tarot deck represents fire. It's the suit of fire. And fire is our ideas and how we share our ideas, how we communicate our ideas, and how we even take in our ideas, or how we're driven by our ideas. And this card says to us that we might be letting ourselves be overwhelmed with some of our different ideas, some of our different choices. We might be letting ourselves be overwhelmed with communication, what we feel we might have to do, who we might feel we have to communicate with, what we might feel we have to get done. that there's a sense, that very mechanistic, almost warlike sense in the card. And the person is almost having to deal out these solutions in this very, like the store, the army store. And a war-based model is inherently exhausting. And it's easy to get there in a world that has so much going on, in a world that has world leaders that are very war-based, and to feel that we even have to fight them. And there's one of my favorite songs is, there are those who want to put fire to the world. We are in danger. There is only time to work slowly. There is no time not to love. So if we allow ourselves to get all activated and reactivated and fearful and fighting, we become part of the problem. And the solution is actually the sacred pause. The solution is to slow down. The solution is, rather than to maybe have the checklist and, I have to go through the checklist, and be more like, how can I be more structured and how can I be more focused? That the solution sometimes is, if I have a list, is I might tune into spirit and say, what is the next thing on the list to act on? What is my spirit calling me to do, or who to talk to, rather than to just push towards something or to get frenetic. It's like my back gets tight just thinking about all the have-tos and all the shoulds and all the stress points. What if we relax and tune into spirit? Welcome, Max. What if we relax and tune into spirit and allow that to guide us? And for those of us who are in the sacred, for those of us who believe in a sense of connectedness throughout the universe, throughout consciousness itself, and perhaps throughout something we might call the divine, I also enjoy tuning into the angels. So I have the angel cards here, and I'm going to pick the angels, an angel card, because I like to think, I'm not saying this is true. Not everything I believe is true. Like, how do you believe it and not believe it's true? I believe because there's something that opens my heart and calms my spirit in belief, in believing itself. But I choose not to believe so strongly, so rigidly, that I would need to fight you over it, because it kind of breaks my heart that so many religions have become a ground for war and trauma rather than a place of connection. So I choose to believe because it opens my heart, because it connects me to something beyond me, because it calms my nervous system. And I choose to hold my belief lightly, trusting that maybe I don't know everything, that there's something always bigger than me that I don't know. And maybe what you believe could be more beneficial to me than my belief, or have a piece of the puzzle of belief itself that I might benefit from. So that way I get to be connected with all beings. I often say, if what you believe connects you, opens your heart, calms your spirit, keep practicing that. And if what you believe about government, another person, the divine, closes you down, has you feel fearful, has you feel disconnected to yourself or others, maybe come up with a different belief. And today's card and today's angel is Archangel Michael. And Michael carries a sword. He's a protector. Sometimes it's fun to think of Archangel Michael, cutting away any negative energies or intentions that might be around me, clearing. It's a nice visualization. Welcome, Jean, with Archangel Michael. To have him standing at our shoulder, kind of empowering us is a great visualization. And this card, Here we go. Crystal clear intentions. Be clear about what you desire and focus upon it with unwavering faith. Be clear about what you desire, and there's a little caveat here, a little refinement here. I recommend always taking the desire to the highest level versus the specific level. What I mean by that is, so I'm like dating someone right now, and from my more attached self, I want him to love me and pick me and choose me, and I want to have it all work. And he's also dating someone else right now and trying to figure out his choices. But at the highest level, what I am, my unwavering desire and faith is to be in a relationship that is modeling what is possible in beautiful relating in the world. My highest desire is to practice committed partnership, romantic committed partnership, as a blessing to our world. And I'm calling that man in, wherever he is in the world. I'm calling that man in. And trusting and having faith and being unwavering about that and having faith rather than being attached that it has to be one person. Because if I attach to it has to be the guy that I'm dating, I can get nervous, anxious, manipulative, coercive. I can get crazy about that one person. And the same could be true about a job. Maybe there's a job that I want. Or I even think that I'm meant to be a life coach, or a certain kind of life coach, or a certain kind of healer, or a certain kind of performer or artist. But I believe that all of that is informed by the divine. So I say, may I be of service with my gifts, skills, and talents. I'm a poet, I'm a writer, I write songs, I have a background in theater. There's so much that I could do, but I don't want to be attached to that. I want to be, my life to be in service, all of who I am, to make a difference in this world. Use me up. Let me be in service of your love and light on this earth. And then, how am I meant to do that? And I listen for inspiration and invitation. And I seek not to get attached that it has to be this job or this way. Sonia says that about sums it up. Mentally, emotionally drained from last relationship, overwhelming but have to let go, need to pause, reflect, and breathe, and not be afraid to take risks in love. I was grateful, but he became needy, way too much for me to handle, and I'm relaxing and tuning into spirit, and that sounds great. Yeah, ultimately, the relationship that we're guaranteed to have our entire life is the one with ourselves. And then I seek to be proud of that and up-level my skill sets, learn or relearn something new every year, heal or re-heal something. Because my desire is to be a gift to this earth, to be a blessing on this planet. What if every time that I talk to a person, or even at the grocery store, the market, or every time I touched a person, or every conversation was a blessing? What if every conversation we had with ourselves or one another was a blessing, not a curse? What if every time I touched someone, it was a blessing? So these are the things that I think about in my spare time. And once again, our lives are formed by the questions we ask. Welcome, Josue. Welcome, Martin. Welcome, Gay. And Sonia says, Archangel Michael is one of her favorites. I'm clear in my desire to have a mate that is loving, pampering, and self-sufficient. And one of the things that I want to say that my mother always said to me, I'm adopted, so this was the Mama Gentile who raised me. She would say, Francesca, don't expect to get something from someone that you're not capable of being. And I always, when I think about, I want a mate that, if it were me and I said I want a mate that's loving, am I loving? Now this is key. This, what I'm about to say, is really key, is that I used to think of myself as loving, generous, giving, like a wonderful partner. So I had this fantasy that I was a wonderful partner. And the reason I had this fantasy is that the times that I was not that, the times that I might be too tired to have sex with you, too disconnected to want to cook for you. The times that I was, yelling at you or slamming doors or acting in some way, you made me. You made me. I'm not that kind of person. I'm not a selfish, angry, disconnected person. You made me that way. Who I really am is kind, generous, loving. That's who I really am. And if I'm not that, you're the problem. And if I can only get rid of you, if I can get rid of you, I can be back to being my normal, usual, wonderful, amazing self. That's bullshit. People don't make us. If you say or do something and suddenly I'm angry, that anger is in me. That trigger is in me. That button is in me. Because if I am a mature ass adult, you could say or do whatever. And I'm going to be like, oh, there you are, saying or doing whatever. And I don't have to be triggered. I don't have to yell at you. If you go poof and hit me, I don't have to hit you back. I could just go poof and turn around. Like in Aikido, you move with the energy and then you just bring it to a close. When I'm in my mature centered adult self, which by the way has taken a lifetime of work and I'm still working on it. When I'm in my mature centered adult, somebody yells at me and I go, and I take a breath and I ground. And if I'm feeling triggered, I'll even say, wow, I'm noticing that I'm escalating and I'm not safe to talk to right now. So I'm going to give myself a timeout rather than go, you don't get to talk to me like that. That's not okay. I'm releasing more and more the need to attack and defend. Not perfect, but I'm releasing it more and more. And coming into a place of how can I own that my emotional responses, whether I love you, lust you, like you, hate you, resent you, all of that, that's in my mind. It's in my mind. We're always and foundationally having a relationship with ourselves and our own mind and our own thoughts. Trump himself, that's a test of compassion. I can look at Trump and get very angry, or I could look at Trump and get very fearful, or I could look at Trump and get very depressed. Trump's doing Trump. He's saying what he's saying, he's doing what he's doing, and those are the facts. Or I could look at Trump and have compassion and be really curious about the suffering of his own childhood, that he would interact in the world in that way. And Trump is saying what Trump says, and he's doing what Trump does. I could also look at Trump and be inspired to be a better person. Like, thank you. Thank you for showing me what not to do and who not to be. And it could be said that every human being in every moment is either showing us what to do or what not to do, who to be or who not to be. And we're that person too. So in every moment, when I'm reactive, when I'm defensive, when I'm triggered and acting out, and love can be a trigger, lust can be a trigger. When I'm in my triggers, I'm showing you what not to do. And when I'm in my more conscious self, when I'm in my more balanced self, when I'm in my more self-aware, self-loving, let me observe the various parts of me and their responses to things and make conscious choices about that. Hopefully, I'm modeling what to do. So, in that journey, they say that when we point, when I point fingers at someone else, 3 fingers are pointed back at me. So that is a journey that I also go on. If I say, whatever it is. I had a boyfriend that I was saying in my mind, he didn't kiss me, he didn't hold me, he would just fuck me. And I'm a very affectionate, a little animal, a little affectionate, person. I love a lot of affection. And, and I was getting super angry, like, oh, he's so selfish and he's so demanding and he just wants what he wants. And of course, the more I felt that way, the more argumentative we were being. And, my higher self, and I love my higher self, my higher self said, Francesca, if you're going to, complain in this relationship, you could just end it. And if you're going to stay in the relationship, I recommend looking at this a different way. I can look at it a different way, but he's wrong. He's wrong. He's wrong. And my higher self said, well, what if he isn't? What if there's nothing wrong about putting all of his erotic energy into his penis and not kissing you or holding you? Like, what if there's nothing wrong with that? What if that's just him? And you can either choose him or not choose him. And what if you don't have to make him wrong in the process? And I'm like, oh. And because one of my quests here in life is a quest for being a mature-centered adult, a quest for being someone who lives life as a blessing on this earth. I chose to stay and to see if I could transmute this. And what I did was I said, the 3 fingers pointed toward me, is I said, how am I demanding? So I say he's demanding and he's controlling and he just wants what he wants. Well, where am I demanding? Where am I controlling? Where do I want what I want? And, the defensive self is like, but I don't want it as much as he does. I'm not as demanding as he is. I'm not as selfish as he is. And that's kind of like a younger self. And that's, the defensive self. And my higher self said, uh-huh. And where are you selfish? Where are you demanding? Where are you controlling? And I went, well, I'm demanding that he do it my way. He's doing it his way, and I'm demanding it that he do it my way. Mm-hmm. Where are you controlling? Anywhere people will let me. There's a part of me that, okay, I'll admit this to you. It's actually from my little girl, that I feel like the world's really unsafe and people are very unconscious. And because they're unconscious, they do things to each other that are very hurtful. Not because they want to hurt each other consciously, but because they don't know themselves enough not to hurt each other. The world is super unsafe. So my little girl inside feels really that people are unsafe and unconscious and they're going to hurt each other and they're going to hurt me. And so I have a tendency to take leadership positions because I trust me to know my own shadow. I trust me to know I'm selfish, manipulative, hungry, that all that is darkness exists in me, just like it exists in you, that it exists in all of us. But most people are too busy denying it, and then it acts out underneath. That the only way to be safer for one another is actually to love our own darkness and to develop a mature, integrating adult self that holds that darkness and says, I understand how angry you are. I understand how hungry you are. I understand how much you want to manipulate. I understand how much you just want to grab it because you feel that there's such scarcity. I understand that. Come here, beautiful parts of me. And let me, the adult integrating self, advocate for you in a way that creates a win-win. We can't actually create a win-win or a healthy, mature relationship if we're not facing our own darkness and loving it. And most people aren't doing that work. So when that part of me asked, do I want to be control? Where do I control? It was like everywhere I can. And suddenly I started to recognize I am controlling. I want what I want when I want it now. And I am demanding. And suddenly when I could see that in me and understand the pain that comes from, suddenly all this anger towards him just disappeared. And I was able to make love with him and receive the energy of his phallus. And he's actually the only partner that I've been able to have orgasms through intercourse alone. By the way, only 25% of women have orgasms through intercourse alone consistently. And 95% of men say that no woman has ever faked an orgasm, and 95% of women say that they have. So you do the math. Really, 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 men, you cannot tell the difference between a woman who is faking an orgasm or having a really good time, but who hasn't climaxed, and a woman who has. So what do you do with the fact that women are lying? What do you do with that? Have compassion. Have compassion. And create a safe space for her to tell the truth. And not make her wrong, and not go into that you failed in any way if she hasn't had her climax or her orgasm. It's just, well, what works, honey? Or how can we experiment to find what works? That's all. I realized in some of my relationships that I was training my partners to lie to me because I would get so upset when they told me the truth. So if we want someone to tell the truth, we need to hold a safe, that tower, that centered tower, grounded, heart open, non-reactive, for them to speak it. And so you can do that for women, so that, why would I lie about faking an orgasm? Because I want to please you, because I don't want you to feel bad, because I was having a good time. And it's not that I wasn't having a good time. And it's, and it was taking, I was judging myself for taking too long. And, or I would, maybe we're just starting to be lovers. And my favorite way to orgasm is self-pleasuring when my partner's inside me. Yay, it's a win-win. He's inside me. That feels awesome. And I'm stimulating the clitoris. That's my favorite way. But sometimes with a new lover, I can feel a little shy about, letting him know that that's my favorite way. And I've got shy parts. For as bold as I am, I definitely have shy parts. So, there's so many reasons. Sometimes I've heard women say that they just get tired. They get tired, and it's like, okay, I'm going to pretend to have the orgasm. And, categorically, like I said, men think that no woman has ever faked it with them. And by the way, thank you for trying. When a man is like convinced that no woman has ever faked an orgasm with him, he's usually somebody who has really tried. Maybe he has given oral sex, maybe he has done digital stimulation, maybe he's, has a beautiful hard-on for a long time and is, pounded away or whatever. And so he's convinced that, he's done the old school try. I spent so much time, really tuning in. And she was going, ooh, ee, ooh, ah, ah. Yeah, ooh, ah, ooh, ah. So I knew that I was doing a great job, sorry. But thank you. Thank you. Thank you for wanting to have us have pleasure. Thank you for making that effort. And to really discover each other's pleasure is a very tender, raw road to intimacy that, once again, many of us don't go on. Because in the beginning of the relationship, we have dopamine, adrenaline, phenylethylamine. We have all these very high hormones pumping that are higher than acid or ecstasy or even heroin. And they're such a high that anything that the person does is like so exciting. But these hormones are like any drug high, will drop after 3, 6, 9 months. It depends on how you respond. Your body responds to this. And eventually the work is necessary to really deepen into a very raw, ongoing intimacy. And I believe a lot of the tantric practices support this, that allow us to really start to choose to feel each other's energy systems, choose to feel our own, and really start to discover, how does my energy work with your body on what day? And it changes from day to day, mood to mood. How does your body and energy work with my body on what day? And what opens up the portals to pleasure right now? And that takes a rawness and a sensitivity and a presence that most of us don't do, because our world is so distracty. The porn, the internet, the Facebook, the racy, crazy mind, the many things we have to do, that we don't take that time to slow down with ourselves. or each other. I want to thank you, welcome Drew, welcome Mark, for taking this time, this pause with me today. Today we covered the breath, slowing down the breath, relaxing the jaw, the belly. We practice grounding by feeling our feet. We practice center by perceiving ourselves as a tower, and with the in-breath, pulling our energy in to the center of our being and imagining that at our choice we could open or close the windows or doors of our tower. We practiced faith and belief, choosing cards, looking at, are we being exhausted, and letting the to-dos and the have-tos take us away from the pause and the tuning in to spirit, the tuning in to the calm, still voice of the soul. We practice choosing to believe in something, and belief is a choice. Choosing to believe in something bigger than us, beyond us, something that could support us in some way. And practicing lowering the shoulders, leaning back into that sense of being supported. And we also practiced looking at how our questions actually form our life and tuning into what questions do I want to ask myself or life itself that help form the path of where I'm going, and really taking on the question, what if all of life were sacred? What practices would get me there? What if I could interact with all of life as a blessing? Thank you for joining me with Spiritual Slut, a slut for the sacred. Mwah. Holding you so tenderly in my heart and spirit. Until next time.